Good afternoon and welcome to We Believe Digital Studios Newsbreak Show, 30 minutes at noontime on Wednesdays and Fridays. We are so glad to have you here with us. Have our dynamic young producer, engineer, multi-purpose, multi-hat wearing Ariel behind the board today and bringing you this show. And I got my birthday today to share with you. So how about that? Can you imagine? And I asked Ariel about that, and she said that maybe I'm still in the Middle Ages. Haven't had to go beyond that just yet. So that's a great thing. So we've got 85 degrees here in Jackson, and headed for 95 degrees, but they say that the real feel is going to be 108 degrees today. Just amazing. Just trying to pull this up on the screen here. And so we'll kick off with our the broad view, the world view, and some stories that are going on. Eid is going on. Muslims celebrating Eid al-Adha coincides with the end of the Hajj, the annual Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. Day starts with early morning prayers at mosques or prayer grounds. Every year, between 2 and 3 million people participate in the pilgrimage. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, there were only 10,000 pilgrims there in 2020. The following year saw 58,000, and last year's numbers picked up again to 1 million. But typically, it's much higher than that. Hajj is a spiritual, emotional, and physical challenge that tests the patience and temperament of each pilgrim. It occurs in Dhul Hajj, the 12th and final month of the Islamic lunar calendar, between the 8th and 13th days of that month. This year, Hajj takes place between June 26th and July 1st. So typically 2 to 3 million people, and look like they'll be up over 1 million this year, rebounding from the lower numbers during the pandemic. Also, the leader of Russia's 24-hour mutiny, as people are calling it, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has arrived in Belarus, seeking safe haven there, 3 days after his Wagner mercenary group mutiny came to an end, about 125 miles south of Moscow. According to the Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko, he said, yeah, he's in Belarus today, and of course, Mr. Lukashenko claiming credit for arranging his exile. You know, over the last year, it's said that the Russian government provided the Wagner Group, for which this guy is the head of, provided them over $1 billion to this Wagner Group, to a group of mercenaries to fight, on behalf of Russia. So that's what's going on there. Also, a missile hit a popular pizza restaurant, killing about 8 people yesterday. 2 11-year-old girls. Sad stuff. This war business. Down on the national front, we want to share with you that Simone Biles has announced that she'll return to competition for the first time since the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. Biles is a 4-time gold medalist, slated to compete at the U.S. Classic on August 4th and 5th. So only about 5 weeks from now at the Hoffman Estates in Illinois, the U.S. Classic. Simone Biles back in action, and we'll see what that leads to. So much heat going on in the country, not just here in Jackson today, but throughout the country. 69 million under a heat alert as we head into the 4th of July weekend. Many people grapple with poor air quality due to the Canadian wildfire smoke that we've reported to you, which have now expanded to include not only in the South and the Southeast, but also the Midwest and California. 69 million people under heat alerts. Heat illness can be devastating and take many lives each year. So we want to be really smart about our precautions during this heat advisory. I'm going to shift gears to Colorado and the Aspen Ideas Festival. The Aspen Ideas Festival is hosted by the Aspen Institute. This is a nonprofit founded in 1949 that dedicated to change through dialogue, leadership, and action to help solve the most important challenges facing the United States and the world. So, a lot of times we see a collection at the Aspen Institute of these big thinkers, and hopefully they can come up with some things to help our society here, and it appears that the real focus this year will be on how trauma fatigue prevents debate on guns from moving forward. So far this year, I think this is valid through within the last few days, 13,900 people killed by gun violence so far in the United States this year, 13,900. Another story that want to share with you, the Reuters, the folks at Reuters have done an examination and found that 100 members of the last, we have 435 members in Congress, found that 100 members of the last sitting Congress were descendants of slaveholders. 29% Republican, 8% Democrat. And so Reuters reached out to those people that were direct descendants of slaveholders and asked them, their thoughts about the findings. 67 of the 100 had no reply. Congressman Gregory Meeks said that either they're ashamed or they don't care. Harry Smith, a reporter, an interviewer, he asked Virginia born and raised Congresswoman Julia Bromley, who found out that her great-great-great-grandfather was a slaveholder, three slaves, if we would be better off as a country if we knew the truth about our past. And this Congresswoman Bromley replied, absolutely, we would be. So it seemed like a lot of people are trying to put down learning about the past. They want to try and close a hard door on the past and not talk about the past, not educate people about the past, and it's really baffling. They just want to pretend that this never happened, or they don't want America's original sin of slavery. They don't want that in the public discourse today. Want to pretend like we just don't need to talk about that anymore. We don't want to educate our children about that because then they might think ill of their ancestors. it's just bizarre. We can talk about the history of everything else, but we can't talk about the history of racism in this country. It just makes no sense. We're supposedly the most advanced and wealthiest country on earth, and yet we can't talk about something as basic as our horrible history with enslaving people. Fortunately, just because a lot of people don't want to talk about it doesn't mean that there aren't others that will, of course, continue to talk about it. And we'll do that right here at We Believe Digital Studios. Today's another day that the Republican legislators have elected not to hold any hearings on the TANF scandal in Mississippi. Every time we broadcast this show, we tell you that because we place a premium on the telling of truth. And when you have tens of millions of dollars that were absconded, by these Republican-led Republican office holders and appointees in the state of Mississippi with clear roots back to both the last governor and even the current governor, but the Republicans, those in power in a minority, a trifecta of minority in state government, they don't want to hold any hearings on this. The Democrats have held 2 hearings so far. The Republicans have held none, and we just want to make you aware of that. Democratic Secretary of State candidate Shuwaski Young calls for the ouster of 77-year-old Mississippi Democratic Party Chair Tyree Irving. Tyree Irving, very interesting man, a long history of service in the state, former appeals court judge. I met with him once. He took a meeting with me, and I learned a lot during the meeting. But recently, he's gone after the executive director. So he's the chairman of the Democratic Party of Mississippi, but he's heavily criticized in an email that was released the current executive director of the Mississippi Democratic Party, Andre Wagner. And so there's a lot of people very concerned about this. I mean, Mr. Irving said that the executive director is just an employee, and he needs to stay in his lane. He doesn't speak for the party. Really confusing how an executive director of an organization doesn't speak for the party itself. So apparently, it would take quite a mechanism in order to oust Party Chair Tyree Irving, because only he can call meetings of the representatives from the 82 counties. And so now somehow or another, if I think 38 or 40, 50 of those counties, if they could find a way to communicate together and decide to assemble, they do have that ability, but it's a little tricky to do so, to oust this Democratic Party chair. There's lots of money that's being held up from not getting to support Democratic candidates because of this back and forth that's going on. And we hope that they can resolve that pretty quick, so that the Democratic candidates like Shuwaski Young can get some funding, some help for their campaign. So we're wrapping up on the first segment of Newsbreak, and we'll just drop out here for a couple of commercials, and then be back with you for the last half and all kinds of more stories.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi is American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth since 1993. Significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippi.link.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back to We Believe Digital Newsbreak. So glad you're joining us today. I was just looking at the break at a story that just broke from via the Mississippi Today. Nonprofit, nonpartisan news group, media corporation here in Mississippi. They're reporting that 44 employers in the Mississippi Delta have been fined $350,000 for racist wage and hiring practices. They got to fine, and then they got to pay back wages over $500,000, $505,000. They're going to have to pay in back wages. Remember, it was a year ago when the Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh, was down here looking into this, exploiting these black farm workers, bringing people in via misuse of a visa program, bringing in white South African unskilled laborers, and then having the black farm workers train these people, only then to be laid off after they train these people. And then the companies are paying these white South African workers more money. So you see, it's not about the bottom line. If it was about the bottom line, they wouldn't be paying them more money, would they? So that's why they rightly call it racist wage and hiring practices. And that's why they're going to have to pay back all that money. And God bless them. Just a backward thinking. It can't even make sense. I mean, these farming corporations are profitable companies, and they make all this profit on the backs of predominantly black farm workers, and to just arbitrarily turn on them like that, it just talk about whipping and chaining. I mean, it's just a horrible dilemma. But once again, our federal government gets to the bottom of it. Our state government. I mean, have you heard one person in the top tier of what we were supposed to call leaders in Mississippi government say one word about this Delta farming shenanigans? Not one word has been heard from those people. So just like with the TANF scandal, they don't want to talk about it. So also we got this issue going on with Rankin County with this horrible beatings and sexual assaulting. Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Parker tased over 30 times. They thought there was drugs involved, and the Rankin County deputies, all white, raided this home, no warrant whatsoever, came barging through the front door, 6 white deputies, 2 black men in the home. Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Parker did unthinkable, unhuman behavior to these 2 men, and culminating with putting a revolver in the mouth of one of Mr. Jenkins. I believe he's 26 years old, and pulling the trigger. Bullet went through the side of his jaw, took part of his tongue, and Fortunately, it didn't kill him, but this is gonna impact him physically and, of course, emotionally for the rest of his life. So anyway, big story coming out last night. That those deputies have been fired. When you read a little closer, you find out that. Well, let me just read, and this comes from WLBT. 6 Rankin County deputies are accused of what attorneys say was racially motivated attack against 2 African American in late January. Attorneys for Jenkins said that, 32-year-old was critically injured by the deputies, who are said to be white. Not sure where WLBT's going on that, but those are all proven facts going into this case that have all been reported previously. So interesting how the soft touch by WLBT on this issue. And the sheriff over there in Rankin County, Brian Bailey, said Tuesday afternoon at a press conference, due to recent developments, including findings during our internal investigation, those deputies that were still employed by this department have all been terminated. And what that means is that some of those people have resigned. So the ones that didn't resign were terminated. And of course, they're not going to tell you the details of that, nor will they tell you the names of those individuals. 3 of the names are known and have been reported in multiple news outlets, but the other 3 names have not been released. But we'll try to get to the bottom of that. Apparently, in an effort to energize the right wing of the state GOP to oust incumbent Republican Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, State Senator Chris McDaniel appeared to be trying to revive debate over the Confederate flag. And he's not the only one. There's a state senator from New Albany by the name of Kathy Chisholm. She's trying to do the same thing. And reading from a Mississippi Free Press article from about 6 days ago, this New Albany Senator, Kathy Chisholm, said at a rally on June 3rd that flag, a lot of our people fought and died under that flag. Our people. What does that mean? Our people. Anyway, so she's going to do what she's going to do, and but it is interesting that back in 2020, voters in Mississippi overwhelmingly approved the new design of the Mississippi state flag by a vote of 73 to 27. Of course, Mrs. Chisholm, or Miss Chisholm, I'm not sure, Senator Chisholm, she was one of the dozen or so in the upper chamber that voted against changing the state flag. And the Mississippi Free Press reports that Chisholm's county had voted 62 to 38 to change the state flag. So her county voted to change the state flag. She's their representative at the Senate level, and she's going to go against that. She did go against it, and she's still trying to rev that up. So interesting, these people getting paid state wages, taxpayer money, are trying to rev up this return to the Confederate flag. Shame on them. Apparently their version of Mississippi is not backward. Apparently they don't care about being last in every societal ranking that exists just about. That's not relevant to them. Apparently in their eyes, Mississippi just fine. So sad to share that with you. hospital CEOs. I think we touched on this a couple of shows ago, but hospital CEOs leaving at an increasingly higher rate in Mississippi since the pandemic. Got a little data on that to share with you. Believe this is from JTV, WJTV. State hospital CEO turnover rate was 17% in 2021. Percentage has been creeping upward since 2019. And now up to 21% turnover rate of these state hospital CEOs. So this provides a lot of instability, and now the Mississippi turnover rate is high, according to I'm sorry, I just misspoke. To the turnover rate, 21%. It had been at its highest in 2014, then it dropped lower, then it started creeping back up during the pandemic, and now back up to 21%. According to Tim Moore, the president and CEO of the Mississippi Hospital Association. And it's important that our viewers understand that there's a lot going on behind the scenes with these CEOs leaving, and oftentimes, the Mississippi Hospital Association advocates for Medicaid expansion. And some of these hospitals, they do not. They'd rather roll the dice with the legislature and get as much funding as they can get, even though they know it would be far, far less than if we expanded Medicaid in this state, helping many of these hospitals, helping bring in a direly needed staff, and help with the lowest healthcare ranking in the entire country. Probably 400,000 people right off the bat could get access to healthcare services that don't get it right now because of one thing: they're poor, they can't afford it. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes with that, and it's not just it's not just money. There's politics. There's politics involved there. So the Mississippi Hospital Association is doing the right thing, advocating for the expansion of Medicaid, but many hospitals are withdrawing their membership in the Mississippi Hospital Association, and many CEOs are leaving because it puts them in a very bad light when the truth gets told about the decisions that they're making. 3 teenagers escaping overnight from Henley Young Patton Juvenile Justice Center. And literally it was, 1 month ago, May 29th, when we had 3 escape from Raymond Detention Center. So Hinds County Sheriff Tyree Jones identified the escapees as Tayshawn Holmes, 17, Robert Earl Smith, 16, and Jashawn Jones, 15 years old, who escaped overnight last night, sometime around the midnight hour. So we're trying to shift down a little bit. Oh, also remember, deadline for voter registration in the August 8th primary elections is July 10th. So you got 12 days remaining to make sure you register to vote. I'm not sure that being registered to vote I don't know if it's ever been more important than it is today. We got some in the chat. Good to see Mr. Floyd, as always. Don't feel like it's white people tax dollars because black people don't pay taxes in checks. Isn't it funny how they try and make it seem like that? Amazing. He says in sarcasm mode today. I can relate. I get that way myself. So shifting on down to Jackson, with 3 minutes to go, I'm going to run through these stories for you. 3,000 kids in Jackson Public Schools participating in the A3 summer camp at 14 campuses across the city. The camp pairs academic improvement with enrichment in other areas like athletics and the arts. And have you noticed the new interim JPD Chief Wade? He's all about tying sports, getting sports going, and getting kids involved. We're excited about the opportunities that are available because of this summer program, said Dr. Samisha Stokes, the Executive Director of the Office of Innovative Strategy at Jackson Public Schools. We're excited for the opportunities for our students. We're excited about programming that expands our students' thinking, their learning, and allow for them to be the global learners that they're destined to become. The camp allows the district to prepare students for the school year ahead. So not only do you work on shoring up the gains that have been made by students, but have them as ready as possible for the beginning of the school year, expose them to some arts, expose them to sports, bring them together, have a sense of community, something positive to focus on that. So glad to hear that from Jackson Public Schools. Also, some good news on the crime front in terms of homicides in Jackson. So this can fluctuate quickly and gravely, but right now, as we sit right now today, or yesterday, I should say, homicides are down 21% from June 27th of last year. So June 27th of last year, according to the WLBT and CJ Lemaster tracker that he devised, down from 66 homicides to 52 homicides. So that equates to a little over 21% from the same time last year. I don't know if anybody loves pizza as much as I do. And one quick look at me and you can see there's a man named Gabe Corciani. Gabe Corciani. He's a white man from Metairie, Louisiana, and bringing Fat Boys Pizza to the Jackson Metro. And you notice I say the Jackson Metro, not directly to Jackson. Ridgeland and Pearl and Madison. And anyway, the chain now has 9 locations in 3 states. They've got a 2-foot-long slice of pizza. They've got some competition attached to it. If you can eat that thing in less than 7 minutes or something, So I never had Fat Boys Pizza. I don't know if you have, but we got one coming to the area here, to the metro area soon. So I'll just tell you up front, I'll be checking that out, see what's going on with that. Although I wish we could see, an African-American pizza joint here in Jackson. Wouldn't that be great to give our dollars to an African-American pizza joint? We wish Fat Boys well in the Jackson area. They're already in Louisiana and Texas, and we're successful in Hattiesburg. So anyway, so we wish them well on that. And I think that about wraps up the list for today. We got all kinds of things going on, but maybe it's possible that the most important thing throughout this weekend is to really make the best possible decisions you can about shielding yourself in the scathing heat, 108-degree field temps today. I was just out back earlier talking to the work crew out there, and they're really looking rough and trying to stay hydrated, and also take as best care as you can, as best health precautions as you can, and as we start marching towards this 4th of July weekend, and take good care of yourselves and those around you. We'll see you Friday at noontime.